She was forced to sing at her ex-husband's wedding by the woman he left her for. Most people would have said no, but she said yes. That night, in front of hundreds of guests, she did something that stopped the music, shattered the smiles, and left everyone speechless. The morning begins like any other for Tessa Martin. She wakes before her alarm, a habit from years of early rising, taking inventory of her body. The pain is there, as always, a dull ache beneath her ribs that never quite leaves. She's learned to live with it, to breathe through it, to pretend it doesn't exist when Nina is watching. The soft golden light of dawn filters through the curtains of her modest bedroom. Photos line the dresser, Nina at various ages, from toothless baby to the serious teenager she is now. There are no photos of David. Those were carefully removed 2 years ago when he announced he had fallen out of love and was leaving for Allison. Tessa sits up slowly, reaching for the prescription bottles lined up on her nightstand. A rainbow of pills, each one fighting a different symptom while her body wages its losing battle. She swallows them methodically with sips of water. "Mom?" Nina's voice calls from the hallway. "Are you up? I made coffee." Tessa quickly stashes the pill bottles in the drawer. "Coming, sweetheart?" She calls back, her voice still morning rough. She catches sight of herself in the mirror, her auburn hair, once thick and lustrous, now a carefully selected wig that matches her natural color. Beneath it, her scalp is smooth, the result of 3 rounds of aggressive chemotherapy that ultimately proved futile. In the kitchen, Nina is already dressed for school, her backpack slung over one chair as she pours coffee into 2 mugs. At 16, she looks so much like her father. A brief relationship during Tessa's 20s, long before David. The man had disappeared before Nina was born, leaving Tessa to raise her daughter alone until David came into their lives when Nina was 8. "You're up early," Tessa observes, accepting the coffee gratefully. Nina shrugs. "AP physics test today. Thought I'd review my notes one more time." "You look tired. Another bad night?" Tessa forces a smile. "Just the usual. Nothing to worry about." This is their dance, Nina noticing, questioning, Tessa deflecting, protecting. She hasn't told Nina about the cancer, not the stage 4 diagnosis, not the failed treatments, not the 6-month prognosis that's already ticking down. She tells herself it's to protect her daughter, to allow her these last few months of normal teenage life before grief descends. In her darkest moments, Tessa admits the truth. She's protecting herself from having to face Nina's pain. "I'll be late tonight," Nina says, gathering her books. "Student council meeting, then I'm going to Emma's to study. Text me when you get there," Tessa says. She wonders if she'll still be here when Nina goes to college next year, if she'll see her daughter graduate. After Nina leaves, Tessa moves slowly around the apartment, preparing for her day. The music shop doesn't open until 10, giving her time to shower, secure her wig. She's almost ready when her phone rings. The screen shows Dr. Patel, and Tessa's stomach tightens. She contemplates not answering, then sighs and accepts the call. "Tessa, good morning." Dr. Patel's voice is warm but professional. "I was hoping to discuss your latest results." Tessa sits on the edge of her bed. "That doesn't sound promising. The treatment isn't working as we'd hoped. The tumors have grown. I think it's time we discuss transitioning to palliative care, focusing on your comfort rather than aggressive treatment." "How long?" she asks, her voice surprisingly steady. "It's difficult to say precisely. Given the progression, 3 months would be my best estimate. Perhaps 4 with excellent care. 3 months. 90 days. It doesn't seem possible that a life, her music, her daughter, her dreams, could be reduced to such a small number." "I understand," she says. Tessa ends the call and sits motionless, staring at nothing. The mail slot in her front door clicks, and envelopes fall to the floor. Grateful for the distraction, Tessa rises to collect them. Bills, advertisements, a postcard from her aunt in Arizona, and a thick cream envelope with elegant calligraphy. With unsteady fingers, she opens the envelope. Inside is a formal invitation. "David Walsh and Allison Parker request the honor of your presence at their wedding celebration. The date is 6 weeks away, at an exclusive vineyard in Napa Valley." But it's the handwritten note tucked inside that makes Tessa's breath catch. "Tessa, I hope this invitation doesn't come as a shock. David and I would genuinely love to have you at our celebration. He speaks so highly of you, especially your incredible voice. He mentioned you used to sing at weddings. Would you honor us with a performance? For old time's sake." David suggested the prayer. He says it was always your specialty. Warmly, Allison Tessa reads the note 3 times, disbelief giving way to a hollow laugh. The sheer audacity, to invite her to not only attend but to perform at their wedding. It had to be some kind of cruel joke or, worse, a deliberate humiliation. The memory surfaces unbidden, David's voice, cold and distant on that final day. "We just grew apart, Tessa. I wish you well. No real explanation for ending 14 years of marriage, just vague platitudes about different directions and falling out of love. She had learned about Allison a week later, when a well-meaning friend sent screenshots of social media posts, David and Allison at dinner, looking intimate. Tessa crumples the invitation in her fist, then smooths it out again, staring at the date. 6 weeks from now, within her 3-month window, she might still be well enough to attend, to sing. David had first heard Tessa sing at a friend's wedding. He had approached her afterward, charmed by her voice and her quiet confidence. Their own wedding, 7 months later, had featured Tessa singing to him during their first dance, a memory that now seems to belong to different people entirely. Her phone chimes with a text message. Got to school safe. Love you, Mom. Nina. Everything comes back to Nina. In 3 months, possibly less, Nina will be without her. Tessa places the invitation on her kitchen counter and finishes getting ready for work. She needs to open the shop, teach Mrs. Abernathy's granddaughter her piano lesson at 11, repair the broken display of violin strings. At the music shop, the morning passes in a blur of customers and lessons. Tessa moves through it all on autopilot, her mind still caught between Dr. Patel's prognosis and Allison's invitation. During a quiet moment, she ducks into the small bathroom at the back of the shop and vomits, a side effect of both the medication and the disease itself. Around noon, the bell above the door chimes, and Rosa Diaz enters, carrying 2 takeout containers. I brought lunch, Rosa announces, setting the containers on the counter. And don't you dare say you're not hungry. You're getting skinnier every time I see you. Rosa has been Tessa's best friend since college, the only person besides Dr. Patel who knows about the cancer diagnosis. She didn't cry when Tessa told her. Instead, Rosa nodded solemnly and said, "Okay, what do we need to do?" That practicality, the refusal to drown in emotion, has been Rosa's greatest gift through all of this. You're a lifesaver, Tessa says, opening one container to find chicken soup, easy on her stomach when everything else seems to revolt. Rosa studies her. Bad day? Dr. Patel called. We're transitioning to palliative care. Rosa absorbs this, her expression giving away nothing. Timeline? 3 months. Maybe 4. Rosa nods slowly, processing. Okay, so we make plans. Get your affairs in order. Make sure Nina is provided for. I've been working on that, Tessa admits. There's life insurance. The shop can be sold. It's not a fortune, but it should help her through college at least. They eat in silence for a moment. Finally, Tessa reaches into her pocket and produces the now crumpled wedding invitation. This came today, too. Rosa takes it, her eyebrows rising as she reads. When she gets to Allison's handwritten note, her expression darkens. You cannot be serious, she says flatly. This is psychological warfare. She's marking her territory like a dog. That's what I thought at first, Tessa admits. But now I'm not so sure. Rosa stares at her. Please tell me you're not considering this. Tessa shrugs, avoiding her friend's gaze. I might not have many opportunities left to sing. And Nina, she's never really heard me perform. Not properly. Not since she was too young to remember. So record something for her. Make videos. Don't subject yourself to performing like a trained seal at the wedding of the man who broke your heart and the woman he left you for. Tessa changes the subject. How are the wedding plans going? Rosa's daughter is getting married in the spring, an event that Tessa already knows she won't live to see. Rosa allows the deflection, launching into a story about bridesmaid dress drama. They finish lunch, and Rosa leaves with a tight hug and a promise to call later. Alone again, Tessa returns to the back room where a piano sits waiting for her next student. She sits at the bench, runs her fingers over the keys, and begins to play. Almost without conscious thought, her hands find the opening notes of The Prayer, and her voice, still strong despite everything her body has endured, fills the small room. The song has always moved her, its message of guidance, protection, and hope. As she sings, she thinks of Nina, of all she wants for her daughter. The final notes linger in the air. Tessa sits in silence, tears streaming down her face. She hasn't cried since the diagnosis, not when Dr. Patel first delivered the news, not during the brutal chemotherapy sessions, not even when she lost her hair. But now, something breaks open inside her. She cries for the years she won't have, for the grandchildren she'll never meet, for Nina navigating adulthood without her mother's guidance. When the tears finally subside, Tessa feels lighter somehow, as if a decision has been made without her conscious participation. She pulls out her phone and types a brief message to the number listed on the RSVP card. I'll be there. And yes, I'll sing. She presses send. Whatever happens next, at least she'll have one final chance to use her voice. Not for David, not for Allison, but for herself, and for Nina, and for whatever legacy she can leave in the time she has left. The next 3 weeks pass in a blur of doctor's appointments, painful treatments, and careful deceptions. Tessa moves through her days with practiced precision, maintaining the facade of normalcy. At the music shop, she wears colorful scarves and elegant hats to hide her wig on days when her scalp is too sensitive. She schedules her most exhausting treatments for Mondays when the shop is closed, giving herself time to recover before facing customers. She vomits between lessons, hiding pill bottles in sheet music folders, and makes excuses for canceled appointments when she simply cannot summon the energy to teach. Food poisoning. She tells Mrs. Abernathy when she has to reschedule her granddaughter's lesson. Migraines. She explains to Mr. Davis when she closes the shop early on a particularly bad day. Just working too hard? She assures Nina when her daughter comments on her weight loss and the dark circles under her eyes. The hardest moments come at night, when Nina is asleep and Tessa is alone with her thoughts and her pain. She's begun recording voice memos on her phone, bedtime stories from Nina's childhood, advice about college and careers, thoughts about love and heartbreak, songs that have special meaning, little pieces of herself that Nina can keep after she's gone. My brave girl. She begins softly, mindful not to wake Nina in the next room. There will be days when getting out of bed seems impossible, when the weight of whatever you're carrying feels too heavy to bear. On those days, remember that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about feeling the fear and moving forward anyway, even if it's just one small step at a time. When the pain or the exhaustion or the worry seemed overwhelming, but I found that if I focused on just the next hour, the next task, I could keep going. And so will you, my strong, beautiful daughter. Whatever challenges life brings you, know that you have everything you need to face them, and know that I am so proud of the woman you are becoming. She ends the recording and saves it to the folder labeled "For Nina, Later." Over 50 voice memos now, each one a different piece of the legacy she's trying to leave. Mom, are you still up? Tessa quickly stashes her phone under her pillow. Come in, sweetheart. Nina enters, already in her pajamas, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. At 16, she stands at the intersection of child and woman, sometimes seeming so grown up that Tessa's heart aches, other times still so clearly in need of her mother. I couldn't sleep, Nina says, sitting beside Tessa on the bed. I keep thinking about my personal essay for Stanford. It's due next week, and it just doesn't feel right. Tessa smiles, grateful for this normal teenage concern, this problem she can actually help with. Want me to take another look at it? Nina nods, leaning her head against her mother's shoulder. You always know how to make my writing better. Mom? Nina's voice is hesitant. Are you really okay? You've seemed different lately. What do you mean different? Nina shrugs. I don't know. Quieter. And you get these looks sometimes, like you're somewhere else entirely, plus all these tired spells you keep having. I'm worried about you. I'm fine, truly, Tessa lies, smoothing back Nina's hair. Just some anemia that's making me tired. The doctor's given me iron supplements, and I'm already feeling better. Promise you'd tell me if something was really wrong? I promise that everything that needs to be taken care of is being taken care of, she says carefully, not quite answering the question, but not quite lying either. Okay, I should try to sleep. Will you read my essay tomorrow? First thing in the morning, Tessa promises. Sleep well, my love. After Nina leaves, Tessa sits motionless, the weight of her deception heavy on her shoulders. She knows that someday, perhaps soon, Nina will learn that her mother kept the truth from her. Will she understand? Or will she feel betrayed, abandoned? The hardest part is watching Nina worry about her tired spells while pretending everything is normal. It's knowing that every milestone they share, Nina's college applications, her senior prom dress shopping, her 18th birthday coming up in January, might be their last together. Tessa's greatest fear isn't dying. It's Nina discovering the truth and feeling abandoned like Tessa did when her own mother passed suddenly from a heart attack when Tessa was 20. Morning comes too quickly, bringing with it a fresh wave of nausea that sends Tessa rushing to the bathroom. She's barely finished retching when her phone pings with a message. It's from an unknown number, Tessa. It's Allison. Thank you for agreeing to sing at our wedding. David was thrilled when I told him. We're hoping you'll perform during the dinner reception right before the speeches. The song choice is entirely up to you, though the prayer would be lovely as David suggested. Let me know if you need anything specific for your performance. The casual tone, as if they're friendly acquaintances, makes Tessa's stomach turn again. Or perhaps it's just another wave of nausea from the cancer. When she's composed herself enough to respond, Tessa keeps her reply brief. The prayer is fine. I'll need a pianist or a backing track. Allison responds almost immediately. We'll have a live band with a pianist. They'll contact you about rehearsing. Again, we're so grateful you're willing to do this. Grateful, as if Tessa is doing them a favor rather than subjecting herself to what will surely be one of the most uncomfortable experiences of her life. The day unfolds like most others. Nina off to school, Tessa to the music shop. But there's a new undercurrent of purpose now. The wedding is just 3 weeks away. If she's going to perform one last time, she needs to prepare to ensure that her voice is as strong as it can be despite her weakening body. During a quiet period at the shop, she closes the door to the back room and begins vocal exercises, warming up her voice methodically as she has thousands of times before. She moves from scales to snippets of songs, testing her range and endurance. The prayer is challenging. Its sweeping melody requires both technical control and emotional vulnerability. On good days in the past, she could bring an entire wedding to tears with her interpretation. But now, halfway through the song, she finds herself winded, struggling to maintain the power needed for the climactic notes. Frustration wells up. This too, cancer has taken from her the full strength of her voice, the one gift she's always been able to rely on. The shop bell chimes, pulling her away from practice. Rosa enters, carrying a folder of sheet music she borrowed last week. "I thought I heard you singing," Rosa says, setting the folder on the counter. "You still sound amazing." Tessa shakes her head. "I don't. I can hear the difference. The power isn't there anymore." "You're really going through with this wedding performance, aren't you?" "I am." "Why, Tessa? Why put yourself through that? Is it some kind of revenge? Because I can think of better ways to make David suffer, if that's what you want." Tessa smiles sadly. "It's not about revenge. It's about reclaiming something. My voice, my dignity. I don't know if I can explain it properly." "Try." "When David left, he took pieces of me with him. My confidence, my sense of self. For months afterward, I felt diminished somehow, like I was less than I had been. And now cancer is taking even more from me. My health, my future, my time with Nina. But my voice, damaged as it may be, is still mine. Using it on my terms, even at their wedding, feels like taking something back. I think I understand, but I'm still worried about you. The emotional toll alone. Will be worth it? Besides, what's the worst that can happen? I embarrass myself in front of people I'll never see again? In 3 months, it won't matter." "Okay, if you're doing this, then I'm helping. What do you need?" "A dress," Tessa admits. "Something beautiful but not too revealing. I've lost so much weight and I bruise easily from the treatments." "Done. We'll go shopping this weekend." "What else?" Tessa hesitates. "Would you come with me? To the wedding? I don't think I can face it alone. Wild horses couldn't keep me away, though I can't guarantee I won't accidentally spill red wine on the bride's dress." This draws a genuine laugh from Tessa, a rare sound these days. No sabotage. "I want to be the bigger person here." "Fine, but I reserve the right to give David my best death glare all evening." Their laughter is interrupted by another bout of nausea that sends Tessa rushing to the bathroom. "Maybe we should reconsider this whole thing," she suggests gently. "Your health has to come first." "This is happening, Rosa. I need to do this. For me and for Nina." "Nina? Is she going to the wedding too?" "No," Tessa says quickly. "David specifically said no kids." This is a lie. The invitation had mentioned nothing about children. But Tessa can't risk Nina seeing her collapse or noticing signs of her illness that might be revealed in a stressful situation like the wedding. Then how is this for Nina? Because someday she'll understand why I did it. Even at the end, I didn't hide. I stood up. I used my voice. It's the example I want to leave her with, not just of how to die with dignity, but of how to live with courage. Rosa blinks back tears, unusual for her practical nature. "You're the strongest person I know, Tessa Martin." "Not strong. Just determined to make what time I have left count." That evening, after Nina has gone to bed, Tessa sits at their small kitchen table with her laptop open. She navigates to her email, finding the message from the wedding band's pianist about rehearsing the prayer. They've suggested meeting the day before the wedding for a run-through, which suits Tessa fine. As she closes her laptop, fatigue washes over her, bone deep and impossible to ignore. Dr. Patel warned her that this would happen more frequently as the disease progressed. She must have fallen asleep there because the next thing she knows, Nina is gently shaking her awake. "Mom, why are you sleeping on the couch?" "It's after midnight." Tessa blinks, disoriented. "I was working on something and got tired." "What are you doing?" "Bathroom," Nina explains. "Come on, let's get you to bed." "I'm fine," she insists, pulling away from Nina's supportive arm once she's steady. Just stiff from the couch, Nina doesn't look convinced. "Mom, I really think you should see a doctor. This isn't normal, falling asleep like this, being so tired all the time. I told you I saw Dr. Davis. It's just anemia. I'm taking the supplements." "Maybe you should get a second opinion," Nina persists. "My friend's mom had similar symptoms and it turned out to be her thyroid." "I'll think about it," Tessa promises, knowing she won't. "Now go back to bed. You have that calculus test tomorrow." Once Nina has returned to her room, Tessa makes her way slowly to her own bed. She collapses onto the mattress without bothering to undress. 2 weeks before the wedding, A white delivery van pulls up outside Tessa's apartment building. The doorbell rings while she's in the shower, and she rushes to answer it, wrapped in a robe with her wig slightly askew. The delivery man hands her a large envelope. Inside is a smaller envelope made of heavy cream paper with her name written in the same elegant calligraphy as the wedding invitation. Tessa, we're so looking forward to having you at our celebration. I've enclosed the full schedule so you'll know what to expect. The band will be in touch separately about rehearsal times. David has been telling everyone how talented you are. Apparently you used to be quite the wedding singer before you opened your little music shop. I must admit, I'm curious to hear what all the fuss is about. See you soon. Allison, your little music shop. Curious to hear what all the fuss is about. As if Tessa's talent is something Allison doubts. As if David's praise must be exaggerated. A flicker of anger ignites in Tessa's chest, burning away some of the fatigue that has become her constant companion. She sets the note aside and reviews the itinerary. Tessa has been assigned a room in the main building, not far from where the reception will be held. Her performance is scheduled for 8:30 p.m. on Saturday, just before the speeches and cake cutting. Prime time, maximum audience. Her phone rings. It's Rosa. I found it, her friend announces. The perfect dress. Emerald green, long sleeves, flattering cut that will hide how thin you've gotten. You'll look like a goddess. Tessa smiles. When can I see it? I'm bringing it over tonight. And don't worry about the cost. It's my gift to you. Rosa, you don't have to. Shut up and accept the gift, Tessa. It's not every day your best friend performs at her ex-husband's wedding to make a dramatic final statement. I'm invested in this now. After they hang up, Tessa returns to the bathroom to finish getting ready for the day. As she secures her wig more carefully, David has no idea about her condition. To him, she's just his ex-wife who owns a music shop. She wonders what he'll think when he sees her, if he'll notice the changes or if the careful application of makeup and the perfect dress will hide the truth from his casual observation. At the music shop, the day passes in a fog of lessons and customers. Tessa is teaching a young boy how to position his fingers on a violin when another wave of exhaustion hits her. She grips the edge of the music stand to steady herself. "Are you okay, Miss Tessa?" he asks, his bow hovering uncertainty. "Just a little dizzy," she assures him. "Let's take a short break." She sinks into a nearby chair, breathing deeply until the room stops spinning. "Now let's try that passage again," she says with forced brightness. "Remember to keep your wrist relaxed." By the time she closes the shop at 6, Tessa is running on empty. She drives home on autopilot, grateful that Nina is at a study group and won't be home until later. She needs time to recover her strength, to put on her healthy mom face before her daughter returns. She's barely been home 10 minutes when the doorbell rings again. Rosa stands there with a garment bag draped over one arm and a determined expression. "Try it on," she commands, bustling into the apartment. "I want to see if it needs any alterations." Tessa takes the bag to her bedroom while Rosa waits in the living room. Inside is a dress more beautiful than anything Tessa has owned in years. The emerald silk falls in elegant lines, with long sleeves as promised and a modest neckline that nevertheless manages to be flattering. It's perfect. She slips it on carefully, marveling at how the fabric feels against her skin. When she emerges from the bedroom, Rosa's eyes widen. "Oh, Tessa," she breathes. "You look incredible." "It's perfect," she says softly. "Rosa, I can't thank you enough." "One more thing," Rosa says. She pulls out a small velvet box and hands it to Tessa. Inside is a pair of emerald earrings that match the dress exactly. "These were my mother's," Rosa explains. "She always said they were for special occasions. I can't think of a more special occasion than watching my best friend show up her ex-husband and his trophy wife." Tessa laughs, through her eyes filled with tears. "I don't deserve you." "Damn right you don't," Rosa agrees, blinking back her own tears. "Now take these earrings and promise me you'll wear them when you bring down the house at that wedding." "I promise," Tessa says as she begins to change out of the dress. A wave of dizziness overtakes her again. She stumbles, grabbing for the bedpost but missing. She's vaguely aware of Rosa rushing forward, catching her before she hits the floor. "Tessa, Tessa, can you hear me?" Tessa tries to respond, but her mouth won't cooperate. The edges of her vision darken, but then the darkness recedes, and she becomes aware of Rosa helping her onto the bed, removing the dress carefully to prevent it from being damaged. "I'm calling an ambulance," Rosa says. "No." Tessa manages to gasp, grasping her friend's wrist with surprising strength. "No ambulance. Nina can't find out. She'll be home soon." "Tessa, you just collapsed. This isn't something you can hide anymore. Please," Tessa begs. "Just help me to the bathroom. Get me some water. I'll be fine in a minute." "5 minutes," she finally says. "If you're not better in 5 minutes, I'm calling Dr. Patel at least." She helps Tessa to the bathroom, where Tessa sips water and splashes cold water on her face. The color gradually returns to her cheeks, and the dizziness subsides to a manageable level. It's the new pain medication, she explains to Rosa. Dr. Patel warned me it might cause drops in blood pressure. I just stood up too quickly. This is getting dangerous, Tessa. You can't keep pretending you're fine. What if this happens during the wedding? What if Nina had been home? It won't happen again, Tessa insists. I'll be more careful. Take the medication at different times. Make sure I'm sitting down when I feel it coming on. And the wedding? Are you sure you're strong enough for that? I'm doing it, she says firmly. Even if you have to wheel me to the microphone. That night, after Rosa leaves and Nina returns home, Tessa sits on the edge of her bed recording another voice memo. My brave girl, she begins, her voice soft in the darkness of her room. Whatever happens tomorrow, know that I sang my heart out. For you. She hesitates, wondering how much to reveal, how honest to be in these recordings that Nina will someday hear, after she's gone. When you face your own challenges, and you will, my darling, because that's what life brings to all of us, remember that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling afraid and moving forward anyway. It's standing up when it would be easier to stay down. It's using your voice when silence seems safer. I'm going to sing at David's wedding next weekend, she continues. It's not something I ever imagined doing, and it's not something I'm doing for him. I'm doing it for me, and for you, so that when you think of me in the years to come, you'll remember that your mother faced difficult things with grace, that she didn't hide or run away, that she stood tall and used the voice God gave her, right until the end. I love you more than words can express, Nina, more than songs can convey, more than a lifetime could demonstrate. Remember that, always. She ends the recording and saves it to the special folder. Then she lies back on her bed, bone, weary but strangely peaceful. The night before the wedding, Tessa packs a small overnight bag. The emerald dress hangs in a garment bag beside it, along with the matching earrings and a pair of low-heeled shoes that will be comfortable but elegant. Nina watches her packing with obvious curiosity. I still don't understand why you're going to Dad's wedding. Isn't it weird? Tessa smiles, zipping the bag closed. A little, but David and I have been divorced for 2 years now. We've both moved on. And why are you singing? Isn't that like, I don't know, rubbing salt in the wound or something? It was Allison's idea, actually, Tessa explains, keeping her tone light. She heard from David that I used to be a wedding singer, and she thought it would be a nice gesture to include me in the celebration. Nina makes a face. Sounds fake to me. More like she's trying to show everyone she's so secure that she doesn't mind having Dad's ex-wife perform at their wedding. Perhaps, but either way, I get to sing again. It's been a while since I performed for an audience larger than my piano students. Can I come? I'd like to hear you sing. I wish you could, she says carefully, but David specifically said no kids at the wedding. Adults only. Nina rolls her eyes. I'm not a kid, I'm 16. I know, sweetheart, but those were the rules they set. Nina seems disappointed but accepts the explanation. Will you record it then? So I can hear you? I'll see if that's possible, Tessa promises. Now, did you finish your history essay? It's due Monday, isn't it? The deflection works, and Nina launches into a description of her paper on the Civil War. Tessa listens, memorizing the animated way her daughter's hands move when she's excited about a topic, the slight furrow between her brows when she's trying to remember a specific detail, the way her eyes light up when she feels confident about her work. Later, after Nina has gone to bed, Tessa sits at their small kitchen table and writes her daughter a letter. Unlike the voice memos, which are meant to be discovered after her death, this letter is for tomorrow. My dearest Nina, if you're reading this, something has happened at the wedding that has prevented me from coming home to you as planned. I'm so sorry for that, and for the secret I've been keeping from you. 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave me 6 months to live. I've been undergoing treatments, but they haven't been successful. I didn't tell you because I wanted to protect you, to give you these last few months of normal teenage life before grief descended. I see now that this might have been a mistake, that you deserve to know the truth, to have time to prepare, to say the things you might have wanted to say. Please know that every moment with you has been precious to me. Watching you grow into the incredible young woman you are has been the greatest privilege of my life. Your intelligence, your compassion, your determination, all of these qualities will serve you well in the years to come. There are practical matters we need to discuss. Insurance money, the sale of the music shop, arrangements for you to live with Aunt Sarah until you go to college. Rosa knows all the details and will help you navigate these logistics. But those are just details. What matters is that you know how deeply, completely, and unconditionally you are loved. On my phone, you'll find a folder labeled, For Nina, Later. It contains voice recordings I've been making for you, advice, memories, songs, all the things I wanted to tell you but was afraid I wouldn't have time for. I hope they bring you comfort and guidance in the years ahead. Be brave, my darling girl. Find joy where you can. Use your voice to speak truth and kindness into the world. And know that wherever you go, whatever you do, my love goes with you, boundless and eternal. All my love. Mom Tessa folds the letter carefully and places it in an envelope with Nina's name on it. She tucks it into her bedside drawer where Rosa knows to look if necessary. Tomorrow she will face David and Allison, will stand before a room full of strangers, and use what remains of her voice to make a statement not of revenge, but of dignity. The morning of the wedding dawns clear and mild, perfect weather for the vineyard celebration. Tessa wakes before her alarm, her body tense with anticipation and a dull ache that signals the need for her first round of medication. She forces herself out of bed, moving carefully to avoid triggering the dizziness that has become increasingly frequent. Today matters. Whatever happens, today she reclaims a piece of herself that cancer and heartbreak have tried to take from her. She showers quickly, the warm water reviving her somewhat. Then comes the careful ritual of applying makeup, foundation to cover the yellowish tint of her skin. By the time Nina wakes, Tessa is dressed in comfortable travel clothes, her overnight bag and garment bag waiting by the door. She's made pancakes, Nina's favorite, and has coffee brewing. "You're up early," Nina observes, nervous about the wedding. Tessa sets a plate of pancakes in front of her daughter. "A little. It's been a while since I've performed for a crowd. You'll be amazing. Dad always said you had the most beautiful voice he'd ever heard." "That was a long time ago," Tessa says softly. "But thank you for the vote of confidence." They eat breakfast together, talking about Nina's plans for the weekend, a movie with friends, homework, a Sunday morning shift at the bookstore where she works part-time. Rosa arrives at 9, right on schedule. She'll drive Tessa to the vineyard, an hour outside the city, and stay for moral support during the wedding and reception. The drive to the vineyard passes mostly in silence. Rosa, sensing Tessa's need to conserve her energy and focus her thoughts, keeps conversation to a minimum. "You can still change your mind," Rosa says as they turn onto the long driveway leading to the vineyard estate. "We could get a hotel room in town, order room service, and watch bad movies. Much more fun than watching your ex marry someone else." Tempting. But no, I've come this far. I'm seeing it through. The estate is even more beautiful in person than in the photos, a sprawling stone building surrounded by meticulously landscaped gardens, with the vineyard stretching out behind it and mountains rising in the distance. Luxury cars fill the parking area, and staff in crisp uniforms direct arriving guests. Rosa pulls up to the entrance. "I'll get our bags and check us in," she tells Tessa. "You just focus on not overdoing it." Tessa nods gratefully. The drive has tired her more than she expected, and she's glad for Rosa's practical efficiency. As they enter the lobby, Tessa is immediately struck by the opulence of the space: soaring ceilings, enormous floral arrangements, plush furnishings that speak of money and taste. Rosa handles the check-in process while Tessa sits in a comfortable chair, observing the other guests arriving. "We're all set," Rosa announces, returning with key cards. "Room 212. The ceremony is at 4, reception at 5:30. Your rehearsal with the pianist is at 2. They make their way to the elevator, Tessa moving more slowly than she would like. In their room, Rosa immediately takes charge, unpacking Tessa's medications and arranging them in the order they'll be needed. "You should rest before the rehearsal," she suggests, pulling back the covers on one of the queen beds. "Save your strength for later." "Just for an hour," she agrees, slipping off her shoes and lying down. "Wake me at 1 so I have time to get ready for the rehearsal." She's asleep almost instantly, her body seizing the opportunity to recover. Rosa watches her friend with worried eyes, noting the labored quality of her breathing, the way her cheekbones stand out too sharply against her skin. She wonders, not for the first time, if this whole wedding performance is a terrible mistake. At 1 o'clock, Rosa gently wakes Tessa. "Time to get ready for your rehearsal, Sleeping Beauty." Tessa wakes slowly, disoriented for a moment. The pain has returned, a persistent throb in her abdomen that the medication dulls but can't eliminate entirely. "How are you feeling?" Rosa asks. "I'm okay," Tessa says, the automatic response she's been giving for months now. She freshens up in the bathroom, reapplying her makeup and adjusting her wig. For the rehearsal, she changes into a simple dress, saving the emerald silk for the actual performance. The space is in the final stages of preparation, staff setting tables with fine china and crystal, florists arranging elaborate centerpieces, technicians checking lighting and sound systems. At the far end of the room, a small stage has been set up for the band, complete with a grand piano and microphone stands. A man in his early 30s sits at the piano, playing softly as he reviews sheet music. He looks up as Tessa approaches, recognition flickering in his eyes. "You must be Tessa," he says, standing to greet her. "I'm James, the band leader." Tessa shakes his hand. Yes, I'll be singing the prayer. I understand you have the music? James nods, indicating the sheet music on the piano. Beautiful song. Challenging, though. David says you used to do this professionally? I was a wedding singer for many years, Tessa confirms, stepping onto the small stage. Before I opened my music shop. Well, let's see how it goes, James says, returning to the piano bench. I'll give you an introduction, then come in on the verse. Signal me if you need to adjust the tempo or key. Tessa takes her position at the microphone, acutely aware of the staff moving around the ballroom. His fingers move over the keys, the familiar introduction washing over her. When her cue comes, Tessa begins to sing, her voice a little tentative at first but gaining strength as she connects with the music. I pray you'll be our eyes, and watch us where we go. The lyrics have taken on new meaning in recent months, a prayer for guidance, for protection, for the light to show the way. As she sings, Tessa thinks of Nina, of all the milestones she won't witness, all the challenges her daughter will face without her mother's support. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace. As she approaches the climactic notes of the song, Tessa feels a familiar weakness creeping into her limbs. She grips the microphone stand more tightly, focusing all her energy on her voice, on maintaining the power and control needed for these challenging passages. I pray we'll find your light and hold it in our hearts. She makes it through, though not with the strength she once possessed. When the final notes fade, Tessa becomes aware of applause, not just from James at the piano, but from the staff who have stopped to listen. That was beautiful, James says sincerely. Your voice is incredible. Thank you, she says. I think we're well prepared. What time should I be back for the performance? Dinner service begins at 7, James explains. You're scheduled to perform at 8:30, just before the speeches. Tessa thanks him again and makes her way back to the elevator, leaning more heavily on Rosa than she'd like. That took more out of me than I expected, she admits. Rosa brings her more water and medication. Maybe we should adjust the plan. You could sing earlier in the evening when you have more energy. Tessa shakes her head. No, the schedule is set. I just need to rest until then, conserve my strength. Tessa, please, Rosa. This is important to me. I can do it. I just need a few hours to recover. All right, rest now. I'll wake you with plenty of time to get ready for the ceremony. Tessa closes her eyes, grateful for her friend's support even in the face of what must seem like stubborn foolishness. The sound of voices in the hallway wakes her some time later. What time is it? Tessa asks, sitting up carefully. Just after 3, Rosa replies. The ceremony is at 4, remember? You should start getting ready. Tessa nods, swinging her legs over the side of the bed with deliberate care. The nap has helped somewhat, but she still feels fragile. In the bathroom, she showers again, letting the warm water ease her aching muscles. Then comes the careful ritual of preparation, medication, makeup, securing her wig. She leaves the emerald dress for later, choosing instead a simple black sheath for the ceremony. By 3:45, they're ready to head down to the garden where the ceremony will take place. Tessa takes Rosa's arm, not trusting her balance on the uneven pathways. They find seats near the back, allowing Tessa to observe without being too conspicuous. From this vantage point, she can see the back of David's head where he stands with the officiant and his best man, his brother Michael. The string quartet begins playing, signaling the start of the ceremony. Bridesmaids in pale pink dresses process down the aisle, followed by a flower girl scattering rose petals. And then the music changes to the traditional wedding march, and all heads turn to see Allison. The ceremony proceeds with the usual readings and vows. Tessa finds her attention drifting, the effort of sitting upright for so long taking its toll. When David and Allison are pronounced husband and wife, the guests applaud as the newlyweds process back down the aisle. David is smiling broadly, but as they near the back row, his eyes meet Tessa's. He saw you, Rosa murmurs. Yes, Tessa confirms. He didn't expect me to actually come. Are you okay? I'm fine, she says, and means it. Better than I expected, actually. They wait for the crowd to thin before standing, Tessa moving carefully to avoid drawing attention to her weakness. As they make their way back toward the main building for the cocktail hour preceding dinner, several guests glance their way, whispering behind their hands. Is that David's ex? She looks incredible. I can't believe she came. So awkward. David mentioned she used to be a singer. Apparently she's performing tonight. Tessa pretends not to hear, keeping her head high and her pace as steady as she can manage. Rosa secures a quiet corner table for them, bringing Tessa sparkling water rather than alcohol, which would interact badly with her medications. They sit in comfortable silence, observing the festivities from a safe distance. After about 20 minutes, David appears at their table, his expression a careful mix of surprise and politeness. Tessa, he says, leaning down to kiss her cheek lightly. You look amazing. Thank you for coming. Up close, he looks older than she remembers, lines around his eyes that weren't there 2 years ago, a slight softening of his jawline. Still handsome, still charming. "Congratulations," she says simply. "It was a beautiful ceremony. And thank you for agreeing to sing," he adds, glancing at Rosa in acknowledgement. "When Allison suggested it, I wasn't sure you'd be willing." Something flickers in David's eyes, uncertainty, perhaps a recognition that Allison's request might have been insensitive. But before he can respond, a voice calls his name from across the room. He turns to see Allison beckoning him, surrounded by what appear to be her parents and relatives. "I should go," he says, turning back to Tessa. "But I'm looking forward to hearing you sing tonight. Your voice was always special." Tessa watches him go, feeling an odd sense of closure. "Well, that was almost civil," Rosa observes dryly. No visible gloating on his part. "He doesn't need to gloat," Tessa replies. "He has everything he wanted: financial success, a beautiful young wife, status. The triumph is implicit. And yet here you are, about to steal his thunder with your performance," Rosa points out. "Don't underestimate the power of what you're doing tonight, Tessa. It's not about upstaging him, Rosa. It's about reclaiming my voice. For myself and for Nina." Finally, Allison excuses herself from her circle of admirers and makes her way to Tessa's table. "Tessa," she says, her voice warm but her eyes assessing, "I'm so glad you could make it, and that you agreed to perform for us. David's been going on about your voice for days, ever since I suggested having you sing. It was an unexpected invitation," Tessa says carefully, "but I'm happy to contribute to your celebration. David's been telling everyone what a talented singer you were. I admit, I'm curious to see what he's been raving about. It's not often the ex-wife performs at the wedding, is it?" The emphasis on "were" and the slightly mocking tone confirm what Tessa had suspected. Allison's invitation wasn't meant as an olive branch but as a subtle humiliation. "I suppose it is unusual," Tessa acknowledges, keeping her voice neutral. "But then, unusual circumstances call for unusual gestures." Allison's smile falters slightly, perhaps sensing that Tessa isn't as intimidated as she'd hoped. "Well, we're all looking forward to your performance. Such a special touch to our perfect day." With that, she returns to her guests. "She's marking her territory," Tessa says quietly, "making sure I know my place." "Which is exactly why your performance needs to blow everyone away," Rosa insists. "Show them both what they're missing." As the cocktail hour winds down and guests begin moving toward the ballroom for dinner, Tessa excuses herself to return to their room. It's time to prepare for her performance, to transform from the polite, unremarkable ex-wife into something more powerful, more memorable. In the privacy of their room, she takes her evening medications, carefully timed to reach maximum effectiveness during her performance. Then she changes into the emerald dress, the silk cool and luxurious against her skin. "You look stunning," Rosa says softly. "Absolutely stunning." "I'm ready," she says, turning away from the mirror. "Let's go show them what a real performance looks like." The ballroom has been transformed for the dinner reception. Tables draped in white linen and adorned with elaborate floral centerpieces, the lighting dimmed to a romantic glow. Tessa and Rosa are at a table near the back, far from the head table where David and Allison sit surrounded by their wedding party. She doesn't mind. From this vantage point, she can observe the room without being the center of attention. "You should try to eat something," Rosa encourages, noticing Tessa's barely touched plate. "You'll need your strength." Tessa manages a few bites of the tender filet mignon, more to please Rosa than from any real hunger. She notices how David circulates during dinner, stopping at each table to chat, his hand often resting possessively on Allison's waist when she joins him. He's always been good at this. Allison plays her role perfectly, the adoring bride, laughing at just the right moments, touching David's arm in a gesture that manages to be both intimate and proprietary. As the main course plates are being cleared, Tessa excuses herself to visit the restroom, not because she needs to, but because she wants a moment alone to center herself before the performance. When she returns to the ballroom, dessert is being served, an elaborate tiered wedding cake alongside individual pastries for each guest. The band has shifted to more upbeat numbers, encouraging some couples to venture onto the dance floor between courses. James, the pianist, catches Tessa's eye from the stage and nods slightly. "It's almost time. Remember why you're doing this," Rosa says quietly. "For yourself, for Nina, not for them." Tessa nods, her throat suddenly dry. She sips her water, watching as Allison rises from the head table and approaches the stage. "Good evening, everyone," Allison says, her voice carrying clearly across the room. "David and I want to thank you all for sharing this special day with us. Before we move on to the speeches and dancing, we have a special surprise for you tonight. As some of you may know, David's first wife, Tessa, is here with us this evening." Heads turn, searching for Tessa in the crowd. She sits perfectly still, her expression neutral. Tessa was quite the talented wedding singer in her day. Allison continues, a hint of condescension in her tone, despite the smile on her face. And she's graciously agreed to perform for us tonight. Tessa, would you join us? Allison extends her hand toward Tessa's table, her smile never wavering. The room goes silent. Rosa starts to object, but Tessa waves her off. She stands slowly, feeling every eye upon her as she makes her way to the stage. The emerald dress catches the light. Allison hands her the microphone, leaning in to whisper, "Show us what David's been raving about." Tessa takes her position at the microphone stand, gripping it more tightly than she would like, needing its support. James sits ready at the piano. "Thank you for having me here tonight," Tessa says, her voice steady despite the emotions churning within her. "I've chosen to sing The Prayer, a song about hope, protection, and guiding those we love through life's challenges." She nods to James, who begins the gentle introduction on the piano. Tessa closes her eyes briefly, centering herself in the music. When she begins to sing, her voice is quiet at first, almost tentative, but as the music flows through her, something remarkable happens. Despite her illness, despite the weakness in her body, her voice grows stronger, more powerful, imbued with an emotional depth that comes from standing at the edge of mortality. "I pray you'll be our eyes and watch us where we go." The room stills completely, conversations fading. Silverware paused mid-air. Even the servers stopped their movements, arrested by the unexpected power and beauty of Tessa's voice. "And help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way." The song builds, and Tessa's voice soars with it, reaching for the higher notes with surprising strength. She feels a strange energy coursing through her, as if her body has temporarily forgotten its limitations, allowing her this one final moment of perfect expression. But then, as she approaches the most challenging part of the song, the climactic bridge, something shifts. A wave of dizziness washes over her, sudden and disorienting. The room seems to tilt, and she grips the microphone stand more tightly, her knuckles white with the effort of keeping herself upright. "Lead us to a place. Guide us with your grace." Her voice falters slightly, and she sees Rosa half rising from her seat, concern evident on her face. Tessa forces herself to continue, determined to finish what she started. But the dizziness intensifies. She feels sweat beading on her forehead, her vision blurring around the edges. And then, as she reaches for a particularly powerful note, her hand slips on the microphone stand. She stumbles, catching herself just barely. The room gasps collectively, the perfect wedding reception suddenly disrupted by this unexpected drama. Without thinking, driven by instinct and a sudden, overwhelming desire for honesty, she reaches up and pulls the wig off entirely, revealing her completely bald head to the shocked audience. The gasps grow louder. Someone drops a glass. At the head table, Allison's perfect smile vanishes, replaced by open-mouthed shock. David rises from his seat, his face draining of color as understanding dawns. For a heartbeat, time seems suspended. Tessa stands exposed, not just her bald head, but all that it represents. The cancer, the treatments, the approaching end that she's kept hidden for so long. And then, instead of stopping, instead of fleeing the stage in embarrassment, Tessa continues singing. Her voice, far from weakening in this moment of revelation, becomes even more powerful, fueled by the raw authenticity of finally being seen for who and what she truly is. "I pray we'll find your light and hold it in our hearts." The song transforms from a performance into a prayer, a goodbye, a testament to love that transcends loss. The audience sits spellbound, many wiping away their own tears as they witness this unexpected moment of profound vulnerability and courage. David remains standing, his expression devastated as the pieces click together. Tessa's thinness, the careful makeup, and now, the undeniable evidence of serious illness. When stars go out each night, remind us where you are. As Tessa approaches the final verse, her strength begins to wane, the momentary surge of energy receding. But she's determined to finish, to complete this final statement of her voice and her truth. James at the piano watches her carefully, adjusting his playing to support her, to carry her through to the end. Rosa has moved closer to the stage, ready to step in if needed, but staying back enough to allow Tessa this moment of triumph. "Let this be our prayer, when shadows fill our day." Tessa's voice, though softer now, still carries the emotional power that has captivated the room. "Lead us to a place. Guide us with your grace. Give us faith, so we'll be safe." As the final notes fade, Tessa stands in silence, tears still streaming down her face. The room is completely still, the audience seemingly stunned by what they've witnessed. Then, slowly, someone begins to applaud. Others join in, the sound building until the entire wedding party is on their feet in a thunderous standing ovation. David is the first to move, pushing past guests to reach the stage. His face is devastated, tears streaming unchecked down his cheeks. "Tessa," he says, his voice breaking as he reaches for her hand. "Oh God, how long have you known?" "6 months," she whispers, finally allowing the exhaustion to show. "I didn't want anyone's pity. I just wanted to sing one more time." He helps her to a nearby chair, kneeling beside her, oblivious to the audience watching this unexpected reunion. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I would've. I could've." "What?" she asks gently. "What could you have done, David?" He has no answer, the helplessness of her situation rendering even his considerable resources meaningless. Allison approaches slowly, her perfect composure shattered by what she's witnessed. She removes her veil. "I'm so sorry," she says, and for the first time there's genuine emotion in her voice. "I had no idea. I thought I was being petty and cruel." "You weren't cruel. You gave me exactly what I needed, a stage for my final song." The room remains silent, the wedding celebration transformed into something deeper, more profound. An elderly guest approaches Tessa, taking her hand. "That wasn't a performance, dear," she says softly. "That was a soul speaking to souls." Rosa finally steps forward, protectively placing a hand on Tessa's shoulder. "She needs to rest now," she announces firmly, her gaze challenging anyone to argue. David nods, stepping back reluctantly. "Of course, I'll help you to your room." "That's not necessary," Rosa begins, but Tessa squeezes her hand. "It's okay," she says quietly. "I'd like to talk to David for a moment. Privately." Rosa hesitates, then nods. "I'll be right outside if you need me." As Rosa steps away, David helps Tessa to her feet. The room parts before them, guests moving aside with respectful nods and murmured words of admiration. Allison watches them go, her perfect wedding reception now irreparably altered. Tessa walks slowly, leaning on David's arm, her head still bare, her truth now visible to all. And in this moment of complete vulnerability, she has never felt stronger or more at peace. In the quiet of a small sitting room adjacent to the ballroom, Tessa sinks into a comfortable chair, her energy almost completely depleted. "Stage 4, pancreatic cancer," she explains, answering his unasked question. "The prognosis was 6 months when I was diagnosed. That was 6 months ago. And the treatments?" he asks, his voice hollow. "We tried. Surgery wasn't an option by the time they found it. Chemotherapy bought some time, but..." She gestures to her bald head. "It took my hair but couldn't stop the progression. I'm on palliative care now. Pain management mostly." David runs a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar from their years together. "Why didn't you tell me, Tessa? I know we're divorced, but this is life and death?" She supplies when he can't find the words. "Yes, it is. But what would telling you have accomplished, David? But I could have helped. Financial support, medical connections. That's generous, but I've managed. Insurance covered most of the treatments, and the music shop provides enough income for our basic needs." "Our?" David looks confused momentarily, then understanding dawns. "Nina." "Oh God, Nina. Does she know?" Tessa shakes her head. "No. That's been the hardest part, keeping it from her. I wanted to protect her, to give her these last few months of normal teenage life. But I'm running out of time. I'll have to tell her soon." David looks stricken. "She's going to need support, help, someone to be there for her. My sister Sarah will take her in until she goes to college next year. It's all arranged. Nina loves her aunt, and Sarah's house has always been a second home to her." "I could help," David offers hesitantly. "I know I'm not her biological father, but those 8 years we were a family. I cared for her, Tessa. I still do. I'm so sorry, Tessa. Not just for this," he gestures vaguely, encompassing her illness, "but for how things ended between us, for leaving the way I did." Tessa studies him, seeing for the first time the genuine remorse in his expression. "We both made mistakes," she says gently. "Our marriage wasn't perfect, even before Allison. But I was the one who betrayed our vows," he insists. "I was the one who left when things got difficult. And now, knowing what you're facing, it makes my actions seem even more selfish." "This isn't about us anymore, David," Tessa says softly. "This is about living fully in whatever time I have left." He looks at her with new eyes, seeing beyond the illness to the strength and grace that radiates from her despite her weakened state. "You were always the better person," he says quietly. "I see that now more clearly than ever." Before Tessa can respond, a gentle knock sounds at the door. Rosa peers in, her expression a mix of concern and protectiveness. "Everything okay here? You've been gone a while and you need your medications soon." "We're fine," Tessa assures her. "Just finishing up." David stands, clearly reluctant to end the conversation. "I should get back to the reception," he says, though his tone suggests it's the last place he wants to be. Can we talk more tomorrow, before you leave? Tessa nods. I'd like that. As David moves toward the door, he pauses beside her chair. What you did tonight, Tessa, singing like that, revealing your truth, it was the bravest thing I've ever witnessed. It wasn't about bravery. It was about authenticity, about using my voice while I still have it. He nods, understanding. I wish. He begins, then stops himself. No, that's not fair to say now. Just know that I admire you, Tessa, more than I can express. After he leaves, Rosa helps Tessa to her feet. Ready to go upstairs? You've had quite enough excitement for one night. Actually, Tessa says, surprising herself, I'd like to go back to the reception, just for a little while. Rosa looks skeptical. Are you sure? You've already made your statement. No one would blame you for resting now. I've been hiding for 6 months. All right, but we're bringing a wheelchair. No arguments. Tessa doesn't protest, recognizing the wisdom in conserving what little energy she has left. Rosa steps out briefly and returns with a wheelchair procured from the hotel staff. When they return to the ballroom, the reception has resumed its normal flow. Guests dancing, the band playing, conversations flowing along with the wine. But there's a different quality to the atmosphere now, a thoughtfulness that wasn't present before. As Rosa wheels her to their table, guests approach one by one to express their admiration, to share a word of encouragement or gratitude. Allison approaches as well, her perfect bridal appearance somewhat disheveled now. She kneels beside Tessa's wheelchair, taking her hand. I need to apologize, she says, her voice low and intense. The invitation to sing, it wasn't meant kindly. I wanted to. I don't know. Assert my place, show everyone that David had chosen me, that I wasn't threatened by your presence. Tessa appreciates the honesty. I suspected as much. But what you did up there, Allison continues, that wasn't about David or me or any of this. It was something much bigger, much more important. It was about truth, Tessa agrees. Allison's eyes fill with tears. Is there anything I can do? Anything at all? Tessa considers the question carefully. Live with intention, she says finally. Don't waste a single day on petty things. And remember that life is more fragile than any of us want to believe. Allison nods, clearly moved by this advice from the woman she had planned to humiliate just hours before. I won't forget. As the bride returns to her groom's side, Rosa leans down to whisper in Tessa's ear. That was incredibly generous of you. Tessa smiles. What would bitterness serve now? Besides, I meant what I said. Life is too short for pettiness. They stay at the reception for another hour, Tessa receiving a steady stream of well-wishers. Some are awkward, not knowing what to say to a dying woman at a wedding. Others are genuine in their admiration and support. Finally, fatigue overcomes her, and she signals to Rosa that she's ready to leave. As they make their way toward the exit, David notices and comes to walk beside them. Thank you for staying, he says quietly. It meant a lot to the guests. To me. It was a lovely reception, Tessa replies. You and Allison make a beautiful couple. David winces slightly at this, as if the comment hits too close to some uncomfortable truth. Can I come see you tomorrow, around 10? We could have coffee, talk more. Tessa nods. I'd like that. We're in room 212. Rosa wheels Tessa to the elevator and up to their room, helping her into bed and administering her evening medications. You did it, Rosa says proudly once Tessa is settled comfortably. You sang your heart out. I'm so proud of you I could burst. Tessa smiles tiredly. It wasn't what I expected, but it was what I needed, I think. To be seen. Really seen, not just as David's ex-wife or Nina's mother or the woman with cancer, but as myself, complete with all my vulnerabilities and strengths. And tomorrow? Are you ready to talk with David again? Tessa considers this. Yes, there are things that need to be said, not for closure, I've already found that, but for peace. For both of us. Rosa kisses her friend's forehead gently. Get some rest. I'll be right here if you need anything. Morning comes too soon, sunlight streaming through curtains they forgot to close completely. Tessa wakes slowly, the pain more intense than usual, her body rebelling against the exertions of the previous night. Rosa is already up, arranging Tessa's medications on the bedside table with a glass of water. How are you feeling? She asks, helping Tessa. Like I performed at my ex-husband's wedding and revealed my terminal cancer to a room full of strangers, Tessa replies with a wry smile. So, about as expected. Rosa chuckles, fair enough. David called the room about 10 minutes ago. He's bringing coffee at 10 as planned. Are you up for it? Tessa nods, taking her pills with careful sips of water. Yes. And after that I want to go home. To Nina. I think it's time to tell her the truth. Are you sure? Rosa asks, concern evident in her voice. You've been so adamant about protecting her. I've been watching her worry about my tired spells for months now. Tessa says sadly. She deserves to know. And after last night, I'm tired of hiding, Rosa. so tired of pretending to be stronger than I am, of carrying this alone. Rosa sits on the edge of the bed. You're not alone. You never have been. But I understand what you mean about Nina. She's a strong girl. She'll be devastated. But she'll also want to be there for you, to make these last weeks or months count. Tessa blinks back tears. That's what I'm afraid of. That she'll put her life on hold. That she'll sacrifice her senior year to be my caretaker. But after seeing how people responded last night, how much the truth mattered, I can't keep lying to her. We'll figure it out, Rosa promises. One day at a time. Now, let's get you ready for your coffee date with David. With Rosa's help, Tessa showers and dresses in comfortable clothes, opting not to wear her wig. Her bald head feels vulnerable but also honest, a physical manifestation of her new commitment to authenticity. By the time David knocks on their door at 10, she's settled in an armchair by the window. Rosa answers the door, greeting David with cautious politeness before excusing herself to give them privacy. I'll be in the garden if you need me, she tells Tessa. David enters carrying a tray with coffee and pastries. He's dressed casually in slacks and a sweater, looking more like the man Tessa married than the polished groom of yesterday's wedding. I wasn't sure how you take your coffee these days, he says, setting the tray on a small table between them. I remember you used to like it with just a splash of cream, but that's still perfect, Tessa assures him. He prepares her cup and hands it to her. How are you feeling this morning? Tired, she admits, but at peace. David nods, his expression thoughtful. It was transformative for everyone who witnessed it. I've never seen anything so powerful, Tessa. The way you sang, the way you revealed your truth, it changed something in that room in all of us. That wasn't my intention, she says. I just wanted to leave something behind that Nina might remember with pride. At the mention of Nina, David leans forward, his face earnest. She doesn't know yet? Tessa shakes her head. No, but I'm going to tell her today when I get home. She'll need support, David says. Not just now, but after. After you're gone. He stumbles over the words, the reality of her impending death still difficult to articulate. I meant what I said last night. I'd like to be there for her, if that's something you're comfortable with. I think Nina would appreciate that connection to her past. The years you were in her life were formative ones. I regret losing touch with her after the divorce, David admits. It seemed easier to make a clean break, to start fresh with Allison. But that was selfish of me. Nina deserved better. We all make mistakes, Tessa says gently. What matters is what we do next. They sit in silence for a moment, sipping their coffee, the weight of mortality and missed opportunities hanging between them. Finally, David speaks again, his voice rough with emotion. I wish I could go back, Tessa. Not to save our marriage. I think we both know it had run its course even before Allison. But to end it with more kindness, more honesty. You deserve that at the very least. We can't change the past, Tessa replies. But we can make peace with it. David looks at her with something like wonder. How do you do that? How do you face all of this, the divorce, the cancer, the limited time, with such grace? I don't think it's grace exactly. It's more about perspective. When you know your days are numbered, you become very clear about what matters and what doesn't. Holding grudges, nursing old hurts. That doesn't matter. Using my voice, leaving a legacy for Nina, making peace with my life, that matters. I could learn from you, David says softly. We all learn in our own time, Tessa tells him. Sometimes it takes a wake-up call. Like watching your ex-wife reveal her cancer diagnosis at your wedding reception. She smiles slightly to soften the words. David winces, but returns the smile. Not exactly what Allison had in mind when she invited you to sing. No, I imagine not. How is she this morning? Subdued, thoughtful. Your words last night about living with intention, not wasting time on petty things. I think they affected her deeply. Good. That's a worthy wedding gift, I think. Better than a toaster or crystal vase. David laughs. A genuine sound that reminds Tessa of happier times in their history. Definitely better than the 3 food processors we received. I wish. He stops himself, and Tessa knows what he was about to say. That he wishes they had more time, that they could rebuild the friendship that once underpinned their marriage, that things could be different. But wishing for what cannot be is futile, and they both know it. Don't wish for yesterday, she says gently. Just make tomorrow count. David's eyes fill with tears, and he reaches across to take her hand. I will. I promise you that. They talk for a while longer, reminiscing about good times from their marriage, sharing updates on mutual friends, discussing Nina's college plans. When it's time for David to leave, he hesitates at the door. Can I hug you goodbye? He asks, a vulnerability in his voice that touches Tessa deeply. She rises from her chair and steps into his embrace, feeling the familiar contours of his body against hers one last time. They both know this is likely their final meeting, the last chapter of a story that began with love, weathered storms of betrayal and illness, and is ending now with a kind of peace neither could have predicted. Take care of yourself, David. she says as they part. And if you can, be there for Nina when she needs it. I will, he promises. And Tessa, thank you. For last night, for this morning. After he leaves, Rosa returns to help Tessa pack for the journey home. They check out of the hotel and load their bags into Rosa's car, Tessa moving slowly but with purpose. No regrets? Rosa asks, noting her friend's pensive expression. None, Tessa confirms. It was exactly what I needed, though not in the way I expected. The drive back to the city passes quietly, Tessa dozing for much of it, conserving her energy for the conversation that awaits her at home. Nina won't be home for a couple of hours, Tessa says, checking the time. She's working at the bookstore until 5. Do you want me to stay? Rosa offers. Be here when you tell her? Tessa considers this, then shakes her head. No, this needs to be just the two of us. But thank you, Rosa, for everything. After Rosa leaves, Tessa sits quietly, gathering her thoughts and her courage. The apartment feels different somehow, as if her new commitment to honesty has already begun to transform the space they share. When Nina's key turns in the lock at 5:15, Tessa is ready, nervous, but determined. Mom? I'm home. How was the wedding? Did you? Nina stops abruptly as she enters the living room and sees Tessa sitting there, bald head uncovered, the evidence of her illness impossible to ignore. Mom? What? What happened to your hair? Tessa pats the couch beside her. Come sit with me, sweetheart. There's something I need to tell you. Nina approaches slowly, her face a mask of confusion and dawning fear. Mom, you're scaring me. Are you sick? Is it? Is it cancer? Tessa nods, tears filling her eyes as she opens her arms to her daughter. Yes, my brave girl, it's cancer, and I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. Nina collapses into her mother's embrace, sobs shaking her slender frame as the truth finally emerges. How long? Nina manages to ask between sobs. How long have you known? 6 months, Tessa admits. I wanted to protect you, to give you these last few months of normal teenage life, but I see now that was a mistake. You deserve to know the truth. 6 months? Nina pulls back, her face streaked with tears. All those tired spells, the weight loss, the times you canceled plans, that was cancer? Tessa nods. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. But there are treatments, right? Surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. Nina's voice is desperate, searching for hope. We tried chemotherapy, Tessa explains gently. That's why I lost my hair. But it didn't work, sweetheart. The cancer continued to spread. I'm on palliative care now, medications to manage the pain and keep me comfortable for as long as possible. How long? Nina asks, the question barely audible. The doctors initially gave me 3 to 6 months. That was 6 months ago. So, not long, Nina. I'm so sorry. Nina breaks down again, clinging to her mother as if she could physically prevent her from leaving. I don't want you to die, Nina sobs. I can't lose you, Mom, I can't. I know, my love, Tessa whispers, her heart breaking at her daughter's pain. I don't want to leave you either, but we don't always get to choose our path. What we can choose is how we walk it, how we use the time we have left. Gradually, Nina's sobs subside, replaced by questions about the diagnosis, the treatments, the prognosis, the plans for the future. Tessa answers each one honestly, no longer hiding behind half-truths and evasions. Where will I live? Nina asks, her voice small. With Aunt Sarah, Tessa tells her. She's already prepared the guest room for you, and it's just until you go to college next fall. You've always loved visiting her, and her house is close enough that you can finish your senior year at your current school. Nina nods, processing this information. Did David know? Is that why you sang at the wedding? Tessa shakes her head. No, he didn't know until last night. During my performance, I got dizzy and my wig shifted. I ended up taking it off completely, revealing the truth to everyone, including David. Nina's eyes widened. You took your wig off? In front of everyone? What did they do? They were shocked at first, Tessa admits. But then something remarkable happened. The room transformed. People saw beyond the wedding, beyond the social niceties, to something real and true. A glimmer of pride shows through Nina's grief. You always had the most beautiful voice. I recorded it for you, Tessa says, reaching for her phone. Not the performance itself. I wasn't sure how that would go. But I've been recording voice memos for you, Nina. Stories, advice, songs, things I wanted you to have after I'm gone. She shows Nina the folder labeled, For Nina, Later, with its dozens of recordings. I thought of them as breadcrumbs, a trail you could follow when you needed guidance or comfort, a way for my voice to be with you even when I can't be. Nina takes the phone, scrolling through the recordings with trembling fingers. You've been planning this all along, making sure I'd be okay. As much as I could, Tessa acknowledges. They spend the evening talking, really talking, in a way they haven't in months. Nina shares her fears, her anger at being kept in the dark, her determination to make the most of whatever time remains. Tessa listens, acknowledges, accepts these valid reactions without defensiveness. As the night grows late, exhaustion overtakes them both. Nina insists on sleeping in Tessa's room, unwilling to be separated even by a hallway now that the truth is known. "Mom?" Nina whispers in the darkness. "Will you sing to me? Like you used to when I was little?" Tessa smiles, though Nina can't see it in the dark. "Of course, my love." And there, in the quiet of their apartment, Tessa sings to her daughter one more time, a lullaby from Nina's childhood, a gentle melody about stars and dreams and love that never ends. As Nina drifts toward sleep, Tessa continues humming, storing away this precious moment in her heart. Tessa knows now that her decision to sing at David's wedding was about more than reclaiming her voice or making a statement. It was about embracing authenticity, about refusing to hide from the truth of her life and impending death. And as Nina's breathing deepens into sleep, Tessa makes a silent promise. Whatever time she has left, she will use it fully and authentically. She will show Nina not just how to face death with dignity, but how to embrace life with courage. 3 months later, the small music shop Tessa once owned is transformed. Chairs fill the main floor where displays of instruments once stood. A small stage has been constructed at the front, complete with a piano and microphone. Photographs of Tessa throughout her life line the walls. Tessa as a young singer, Tessa with baby Nina, Tessa teaching piano, Tessa in her emerald dress at David's wedding, her bald head proudly uncovered. The shop is packed with people, students and their parents, neighbors, friends, colleagues from the music world. David is there, sitting quietly in the back with Allison beside him. Rosa moves among the crowd, helping with arrangements, her eyes occasionally glistening with unshed tears. At the center of it all is Nina, now 17, standing tall despite the grief that still marks her young face. She steps onto the small stage, adjusting the microphone with hands that tremble slightly. "Thank you all for coming to this celebration of my mother's life and legacy," she begins, her voice clear and strong. As many of you know, Mom planned this event herself in her final weeks. She called it her encore performance. Typical Mom humor. Gentle laughter ripples through the audience, recognition of Tessa's spirit shining through even in her absence. "My mother taught me that your voice isn't about perfection," Nina continues. "It's about courage. The courage to speak your truth even when it's hard." In her final months, she demonstrated that courage every day. She faced her illness with grace and honesty. She used her voice, both her literal singing voice and her metaphorical voice, to leave a legacy of truth and love. Nina looks around the room, making eye contact with various people who shared in her mother's journey. Some of you witnessed her performance at David and Allison's wedding, where she revealed her cancer diagnosis in a moment of raw vulnerability that transformed everyone present. Others of you were with us during those final precious weeks, as she continued teaching her students until she physically couldn't anymore, as she recorded one last album of songs for this benefit concert. She gestures to a table near the entrance where CDs are stacked. "Today, we'll hear that album in its entirety," Nina explains. "And then, with your permission, I'd like to share one final recording, something Mom created just for me, but that I think speaks to all of us about the power of voice and legacy." The next hour passes in a kind of reverent silence broken only by Tessa's recorded voice singing the songs she selected for her final album. Some are standards from her wedding singer days, others more personal choices that reflect her journey through illness and toward acceptance. The final track is "The Prayer," recorded in a professional studio 2 weeks before she died. When the album concludes, there isn't a dry eye in the house. Nina returns to the stage, her own cheeks wet with tears. Before Mom died, she recorded dozens of voice memos for me. Stories, advice, songs. Her way of ensuring her voice would still be with me even after she was gone. This final recording was made 3 days before she passed. With her permission, I'd like to share it with all of you. Nina presses play on her phone, which is connected to the sound system. Tessa's voice fills the room. "My darling girl, when I'm gone, don't look for me in the silence. Look for me in every song that makes you brave. Your voice is your legacy. Use it while you can. Speak the truth. Show compassion. Sing out when others are afraid. And know that wherever you go, whatever you do, my love goes with you, boundless and eternal." I hope you understand now. I didn't sing at that wedding for them. I sang for you. I sang so you'd know that even when everything seems impossible, your voice can carry you through. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and more loved than you'll ever know. As the recording ends, Nina stands in silence for a moment, allowing her mother's final message to resonate throughout the room. Then she looks up, her expression a mix of grief and determination. "Mom was right," she says simply. "Our voices are our legacy. How we use them, to speak truth, to show compassion, to sing out when others are afraid. That's what remains after we're gone. In her honor, I pledge to use my voice with the same courage and authenticity she demonstrated throughout her life, but especially in those final months. She looks toward the back of the room, where David and Allison sit. Thank you both for being here today. Mom spoke often of how that wedding performance changed something for you, how it created connection where there had been division. That meant a lot to her. David nods, wiping away tears, his hand clasped tightly with Allison's. Nina turns back to the full audience. In closing, I'd like to invite each of you to use your own voice in whatever way feels authentic to you. Speak your truth, share your story, sing your song. That's the legacy my mother left not just for me, but for all who knew her or heard her sing. As the event concludes and people begin to mingle, sharing memories of Tessa and expressing condolences to Nina, Rosa approaches with a small package. Your mom asked me to give you this today, she explains, handing the carefully wrapped item to Nina. She said you'd know when to open it. Nina unwraps the package to find a small ornate key on a silver chain, the key to the music shop. Attached is a note in Tessa's handwriting. My brave girl, this shop was my dream, my haven, my legacy. Now it's yours, to keep, to transform, to sell if that's what feels right. Whatever you choose, know that I trust your voice and your vision. The music lives on through you. All my love, Mom. Nina clasps the key in her palm, feeling its weight and significance. She doesn't know yet what she'll do with the shop. Continue teaching music, transform it into something new, or perhaps sell it to fund her college education. But she knows that whatever path she chooses, she will approach it with the same courage and authenticity her mother demonstrated. The final song hasn't ended. It merely changed its melody, continuing in a new voice that carries forward the legacy of courage, truth, and love that Tessa Martin sang into the world until her very last breath.